Know Your Well is an interactive educational program focused on groundwater quality and safe drinking water from domestic wells in Nebraska. High school students and teachers identify wells in their area and talk with well owners. Students then collect water samples from local wells and assess the area around the well. After the samples are taken, students test the water for different properties and potential contaminants. Duplicate samples are sent to the Nebraska Water Science Laboratory for additional testing. Next, you will be introduced to some features of the existing app for Know Your Well.
Hello, my name is Sarah Brock-Contreras, and I'm a grad student and the program coordinator for Know Your Well. In 2022-2023, we utilized a senior design team from CSE, much like yourselves, to develop a progressive web application, or PWA, to increase accessibility for data collection for Know Your Well. Using the app streamlines this main form of communication between participating schools and the research team and allows for real-time monitoring via the database. Utilizing this app promotes the co-creation of knowledge for both social and environmental impact. I want to briefly walk you through what the app looks like at its current state and what we've been using to beta test with one school group and the research team over the summer. Use this app as a student user. We go to the website, knowyourwell.azurewebsites.net. And if we wanted to take this device out with us into the field, we could find this little icon up in the top that would either download it onto a larger mobile device like an iPad or a tablet, or in the mobile browser of user's choice, there's an ellipses and they can download the app that way. Through this login information, students will be able to log in using their own school email addresses and passwords, have that verified through the Nebraska Department of Education's Nebraska Cloud Federation, and be able to see only the wells that they have submitted and collected information for. When they click log in, they can see all of those wells. If they would like to create a new well, they can go to the top, click create new well, and enter the name, contact information, and some other basic information about the well, its history, the use of the land around it, and so on. They are done. They can submit and go back, and that will send everything back to the database, and they can view the information by going back and clicking well info. You might have noticed a few updates and fixes that would need to occur before we can implement the app in full functionality. The main issue is user authentication. Students right now are submitting wells that can be seen by anyone who knows how to find or access the app. We'd like to make sure that students are only seeing and sorting through their own submitted wells. Also, we've received some great feedback from the beta testers, both students and the research team, on general improvements, which Mark Misarch will go into further.
Hi, I'm Mark Misarch. I'm a senior web and database program specialist here in the School of Natural Resources. I work with a lot of web and database and how they interact with each other and focus on user experience. So that's what I bring to the table. We're going to look at our project scope and specifications. So our current app uses a progressive web application because we knew that we wanted to users be able to use on their iPhones, on their Android devices, on laptops, on tablets, on desktops. So we knew a PWA would help create that same user experience, and the coding would help to be able to work across all platforms. Currently, we're hosting on an Azure resource group that's owned by the Nebraska Water Center, and we know that the development team can be given access to that group. That's how we worked in the previous time in their development area. The database is a SQL database, and that's also part of the Azure, Microsoft Azure platform, and we'll look at that if time exists. And then the backend was developed with a Node JavaScript, and the front end I think was used with React, serviced by that node. I work in ISP.NET and C#, and so hopefully I and other people on the team will be able to interact with the app, do fine tuning of it after the development team is finished with the project. Our current backend for administrative needs to the database, we use an Azure Data Studio application, or we also have a Microsoft Access database with an OBDC connection that can be used as a GUI front end to the database. So our major task to work on the app is the main thing is we want the authentication process to be completed so that we can have security on the application. We've been working with Nebraska Cloud, which interacts with the public schools across the state of Nebraska and through their educational service units. So we know that there's a way that they have been interacting, doing authentication. We know that authentication is not a simple task, and we know other projects that we've worked on that authentication step has been usually farmed out to a third-party group. So we hope that if you take on this task, this is something that you can complete, and then it can have a feather in your cap when you're applying for other jobs in the real world. Once we have that authentication, then it will be integrated so that what school is logged in will be able to parse the data from the database and then be able to share with that school the data that they've collected. We don't want one school being able to interact with other schools' data at this time, mainly for security reasons. And the next portion is we want to complete the connectivity between the data fields in our database and different types of form validation in the application, in the PWA. There are a number of data fields that look like they are currently interacting with the database or being downloaded the database, but they are not. So we need that finished up. There are even some data fields that were not added to the forms that need to be added. And then there's some form validations that is not complete. The next major portion is we need the device that the user is using to be able to take photographs and store those images along with the GPS coordinates of, say, the land area, the wellhead, different kinds of pictures, even documents, and then for that information to be stored in the device, and then once we're able to have internet connectivity, to be able to transfer the information about those pictures to the database and the pictures themselves to the storage with our system. And as you've seen with Sarah showing the application, the well menu can become overwhelming with a number of different wells. And so we'd like some sort of filtering system to be added into the well menu system, maybe sorting or searching for a particular well. Once they submit the database, then any corrections would have to be sent to the Know Your Well administrative team. We now would like the ability for the user to be able to update the data in the database on their own, so they won't have to send that to us. That would also then lead into maybe a administrative backend that would be a little more user-friendly than the Azure Data Portal or the Microsoft Access for the administrative team to use. The last thing is about a pop-up capability on the forms that will allow the user to see a little more detailed definitions of a particular data field. We know that there'll be some training for the application at some point in time, but it may be weeks before they actually go and collect data. So it'd be nice if there was a way that they could pull up quick information about a particular data field as they're collecting the data. And then the last thing is we know there will be multiple releases as you're developing the app. We find it would be very beneficial if the development teams would create a video of them using the app as they understand how data would be collected and that portion of the app, so that we can see how they are interpreting how the application can be used. And it'd be just like them being a student using the app. It doesn't have to be polished, just quick and dirty so we can see how they visualize that the app is being used.
By contributing to development of the Know Your Well app, your team will learn from real-world experience working with a local client, improve data collection and management by the Know Your Well team through the app, and importantly, enhance water education and monitoring for safe drinking water in Nebraska. Thank you for considering Know Your Well.